It's alive!
How do we know she is alive?
I hate when people talk during the movie.
No wire hangers ever!
You're tearing me apart, Lisa!
Your stupid minds! Stupid! Stupid!
Relax. It's all in bad taste.
Everyone fully dranked? Everyone got their drink on?
I get my drink on. I sound Yorkshire anyway, because I've noticed that.
You're not from Yorkshire.
No,
so how
but
can you
like,
sound
I'm more
No,
Yorkshire?
you don't sound anything like Yorkshire.
No.
You think you sound Yorkshire, but what you sound is like you're from Durham,
I'm
which
more
is where you're
meant.
from.
I missed letters out. I went.
That's not necessarily Yorkshire. That's
Just
just
because-
bad
yeah.
grammar.
Oh,
It's just
but
no
you just
one
do
to
the
be in Yorkshire.
Being illiterate
It's
does not
the
mean you're
norm.
Best
Yorkshire.
stereotype.
We're just alienating all of the Yorkshire listeners that we
I'm from
potentially
Yorkshire.
have.
Well, mostly.
From
Hey,
country.
point proven, Hannah. Yeah, you're a fucking shiny example of the. Sorry,
Northern scum.
I do want this.
Not
this
quite northern though, are you, Liam? Because you're south of the time, but you're not quite southern either. So where do you really
I
belong?
exist in the land of NILBOG, and only the land of NILBOG. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first episode of the Bad Taste Buds, the podcast where we talk trash about the very best of bad cinema. This is our inauguration episode.
Do you want to try that word again?
Inauguration.
Yeah, one more.
What, do you not think that was good? Hello, everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of the Bad Taste Buds.
Sorry.
Wow.
We're just having
Wow,
patter.
you piece of
I thought we were just
shit.
having patter. I
You
didn't realise
piece
were
of
actually,
shit.
really
You
like
fucking
that.
idiots.
Can we go back to the inauguration?
Is the word inaugural? Inaugural.
Inaugural.
I don't want to start the episode like this.
If
Yeah,
we're
but
not sure, don't use the word.
I'm your host, Liam, and on my right, we have the beautiful Jack. Say hi, Jack.
Hi, Jack. Oh, god damn it. Sorry, I
Got
was so
you.
tropey. Fucking hell. Hi, guys. Hi.
And next name, we've got Hannah.
Hello.
And last but not least, we have Ryan.
The head of the new church of Grandpa Seth.
You've
Putting
church.
that out there if anyone wants to join.
Is it like Scientology where I have to pay like inaugural amount? Wait, hold on. I keep using that.
Inaugural amount of money.
Inaugural.
It's obscene.
I don't know what's happening to my brain. Yep, that's us. We are the Bad Taste Buds. We go through the very worst films of all time and talk trash about how much we love them, because we do. There's something genuinely special about bad films, and that's kind of what we're here to celebrate on the podcast. I know for a fact that we're all friends here. We all kind of went to university together. We met, what was it, like 7 years ago or something, I think now. And we kind of, I think it was like our fourth year of kind of living together. We started to dabble in the world of Best Worst.
Well, you sort of introduced it to us, didn't you? With the one, the only, The Room.
The one, the only, the room. See, this was my first one, Troll 2. The episode we are doing today is the 1990 film Troll 2.
So how old were you when you first watched Troll 2?
I must have been, it was very, very close to kind of the beginning of uni. I think I was probably like 18.
So we heard about it from you. Where did you hear about it?
Weirdly enough, from YouTube clips and memes. So Troll 2 was I remember, oh God, it was like 2012 or something, 2013. It was the early years of Facebook. I think it was kind of the first few years of Facebook. I remember seeing the video clip circulating, the oh my God scene, the infamous, oh my God, they're eating her, and then they're going to eat me. Oh my God. And it was kind of from that moment on, I was like, I think I found my calling. I think I've discovered what I actually want to do with my life. And I think it was like 5 years, since kind of really getting into them, I always wanted to set up this podcast, and I knew you guys kind of appreciate them. We used to host like bad movie nights around our flat, remember? We used to kind of get everyone around and we'd
Yeah,
go
it
through.
used to be our Saturday night activity,
I
bad movie.
Well, I miss doing them, and that's kind of why I started this up again.
I just miss having people round.
Well, there was that as well, yeah. Obviously, when this releases, I guess, we might be out of lockdown. Who fucking knows? Probably not. But regardless, once lockdown is over, I think there's no better way to celebrate the end of lockdown than with some really shitty movies. What I want to do quickly before we talk about Troll 2 is kind of have a little discussion about Best Worst cinema in general, what it does to kind of the people watching it, why there is this cult surrounding it, and kind of how we feel about it. So what does Best Worst mean to you guys? When I say the word Best Worst, what do you guys think?
It means that I'm not going to go see a summer blockbuster, but I am going to see something very entertaining. The Best Worst to me is something on Rotten Tomatoes that is 30% or below. At 50%, you have a middle-of-the-road movie that in most likelihood will just be dull and it won't be entertaining. At Best Worst is so bad that I either laugh or I am enthralled or I am left scratching my head at the end wondering just what the fuck happened.
It's the you've been framed car crash kind of, I know I shouldn't enjoy this,
Yeah.
but I do kind of vibe of
Yeah.
it, isn't it? It's that cinema, it's guilty pleasure.
It's the movie that if I showed it to my mum, she would come away like, just bamboozled.
Disown
yeah,
you.
just get out the house. What have you done? You've wasted 2 hours of my life.
I think things with flaws tend to be kind of personified or humanized or endeared as well, aren't they? Like
yeah,
if you've got a car that makes a squeaky noise, you're like, oh, she's just got a bit of a squeak. You know, it's that kind of having something shit about it gives it a bit of a human trait because we are shit, aren't we? Really?
Well, that's it. It's almost like it's the purest form of filmmaking to me. You can't really get any more sincere or earnest or honest than a bad film that was made with the truest of intentions. And that separates films like Troll 2, Showgirls, Man Lost the Hands of Fate, Plan 9 from Outer Space, from something like Sharknado, which I think Hollywood almost tried to capitalize on.
Or any Adam Sandler film.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. Like, there's bad, and then there's bad. Like, there's good bad.
Bad with a wink.
Bad with a little winky boy.
Little wink.
I mean, for my money anyway, I would say that Troll 2 was more of a resurgence than a defining moment in the genre of Best Worst. When people want to look back to say kind of the origins of Best Worst, they look to the two time periods I look to anyway, the 1930s and the 1950s. Obviously, the 30s with films like Reefer Madness, Terror of Tiny Town.
Oh my god, that sounds delightful.
It's exactly how it sounds. I'm looking forward to you watching that one. You'll see yourself as the giant fucking villain in it, probably, though.
Oh, Bigfoot.
But then obviously, I think more seminally, the 1950s with directors like Ed Wood and the popularity that was garnered around him, and obviously the Tim Burton biopic that came with Johnny Depp.
Oh, you fucking... I was about to make a joke about Johnny Depp. Yeah, it was actually Johnny Depp.
Of course it was Johnny Depp. Who else would it be? It's the only actor on Tim Burton's fucking phone, apparently. Well, maybe not anymore. Awkward. Directors like Ed Wood, at least, and Roger Corman as well, ushered in kind of that period of the B-movie and the kind of popularity of the B-movie. Do you know kind of where the origins of B-movies come from and why it does differentiate?
Yeah, pick me, sir.
Go on, I think I've told you this before, but
yeah, so they used to have screenings at the cinemas and there would be two movies on. You would have your A movie, which was your bigger, more popular, more marketed movie.
Yeah, that was the one to get butts in seats.
And then your B movie came afterwards and it was lower budget. Yeah. It was much more campy in general, and they are fun as fuck.
So, like, my mind goes to shit like, I don't know, Killer Clowns from Outer Space, Barbarella, you know, all the trauma films as well, like Toxic Avenger, one of our personal favorites. Fuck. But I wouldn't always classify them as best worst movies. Just because it's B doesn't mean it's bad. You can be B and be pretty fucking exceptional from beginning to end.
Oh fuck yeah! You need an entertaining story. It's filmed well. It's acted well. People know what they're doing.
I mean, just because it's campy doesn't. I mean, this is why you never see something like Rocky Horror in a best worst category, because it's still extraordinarily put together. It's wonderfully acted, wonderfully directed, but it's campy. Campy doesn't always necessitate bad. The way this film gained a lot of its popularity as well was kind of through those late night, low budget cable TV kind of scene, the Sci-Fi Channel, VHS, midnight screenings. A lot of the same ways that Rocky Horror did, actually, where people would kind of go to these secret screenings, those people who were kind of in the know.
One of the beauties of this is, though, that as time goes on, those midnight screenings still are absolutely packed and people go every single year regardless. And although it's just a small following, it's still a loyal one.
Probably more so, I would say, than they used to be.
Fiercely loyal.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of just got back from watching the documentary as well, and you can see that the fan base that this film has is exponential. It's probably in the thousands at this point. Definitely in the thousands at this point.
Yeah. There was a guy from Russia that flew over.
Yeah, people fly. Uh-huh. People travel for this shit. Imagine? Oh. I mean, I kind of could imagine. I feel like I might.
Russia to Utah, though. Like,
I'm a little bit upset that I've never been to one of these conventions that we'll probably talk more about on our supplementary episode, our point 5. But yeah, these conventions are wild. Mm-hmm. There's something unashamedly naughty and underground about the whole thing. It's almost as if it's like a dare. I've seen this really bad film. A dare to fucking watch it. It's like you kind of want to watch these things with your best friends and just kind of. I think it's a perfect kind of chill out movie. This was almost like a revival, I think, and especially when the documentary came out, which we have watched as well. The Best Worst movie documentary came out in 2009. It almost brought back Best Worst into the public consciousness, into the public sphere. And then kind of post that, The Room and then The Disaster Artist was a big one. Mm-hmm. Obviously, kind of seeing a Hollywood blockbuster with A-list actors definitely forced a lot of people to kind of seek these films out. And I appreciate that. Kind of as a fan from kind of my late teens, I appreciate that it's kind of becoming more popular and more mainstream.
And I appreciate that because that means we have more listeners.
And more films to cover. Like, if we keep getting shit like this, then that'd be brilliant.
It's actually number 33 on IMDb.
It's dropped. Yeah,
it's not the worst movie according to IMDb.
It used to be.
What's the top one now?
disaster movie. The Friedberg and Seltzer, the guys who did Scary Movie.
I kind of feel like cheating though if it's meant to be shit. Kind of, it's meant to be shit, really. Isn't it?
It's a
meant to be
weird
shit,
one.
but it misses what it aims for and lands in trash.
I think the Friedberg and Seltzer movies, those the Meet the Spartans, date movie,
Scary Movie.
Yeah, they at least try. They want people to laugh with them, not at them. I don't think they're like intentionally bad. I think they genuinely think they're funny people, and they're not because they're fucking atrocious. It's a weird. There's a weird dichotomy between what actually classifies as best worst, because a lot of people would argue Sharknado does. But you're right, Jack. If it's built to be best worst, are we allowing it to be? I don't know. We're definitely going to cover those films later on the line. But today we are focused on Troll 2. When was the first time you guys saw this movie then? Because I was 18, 19 when I saw it.
Yeah, on the floor of your like fourth year of uni house.
We had very few couches, clearly. We had like one couch that like 8 of us had to share.
Yeah, it was cozy. It's been a while, so my memory's a little bit rusty of it, but obviously we've watched that best worst movie one which caught us up to speed. I just remember thinking like, what the fuck? Someone released that thinking, yes, this is good. And it's amazing to see the Defender get so annoyed when people criticize it.
Oh, we are going to get into that.
A lack of self-awareness from him was just like bamboozling. It really was.
Yeah.
Director is a scary man.
He's a bit intimidating. Watching the documentary and seeing him like almost harass the actors consistently throughout the whole thing.
Just booing them off the stage.
Calling them
Calling
dogs.
them dogs
Yeah.
all the time. Human dogs, he called them.
I think, again,
The actor dogs.
that kind of plays into why Best Worst is successful, because most of the time a good Best Worst has the backing of the creator to the end. Like Tommy Wiseau's the same with The Room. He loves that thing and he refuses to let anyone tell him it's dog shit.
He embraced the best worst culture, but
Yeah.
he still is adamant it's a masterpiece.
That's it. And I think a lot of the times it's that earnestness of the filmmakers. They genuinely think they put out something exceptional, and when it's not exceptional, when it's a dumpster fire, you're right. It's like cinematic rubbernecking. You can't look away for a second.
The directors almost live in the delusion. They want to be there. They love the praise and the attention and the claps that they get for the cult of best worst moviegoers that love their films. But when that same cult turns around and says, I love your film because it was terrible, the directors tend to get infuriated and will defend the movies and say that they are excellent at the same time, lapping up the praise they're getting from the people criticising it.
Oh,
It's press, but yeah.
All that being said, I would go on record to say that Best Worst is my favorite genre of movie. There's something unexplainably delightful about watching a Best Worst movie. It's almost hard to put into words. It's hysteria. It's the epitome of camp, and I think it captures a lot of the public zeitgeist as well. It captures kind of what's going on in the world. I think we need shit like this. I think in the day and age where things are really dark and really stressful and we're all upset and we're all scared because of quarantine and whatever the fuck's going on in America and all that jazz, I think now more than ever people need to be indulging in trash, because it's not just film. It's not limited to film either. Like, as a culture, we have always kind of been obsessed with trash. Like, just look at the TV shows that are on
Love
Island, Big Brother. I mean, it probably started with Big Brother, didn't it? You can't really get better than just watching a fucking train wreck for 30 minutes at a piece and just kind of indulging in it. I don't know what the reason is. I don't know what the human kind of consciousness is that makes us attracted to this kind of shit. Maybe it's like a weird form of schadenfreude that we just like watching the world burn. I don't know.
Or that we just like watching people be human, and that
Maybe,
is
yeah.
part of being human is just sort of fucking up a little bit.
I
And
enjoy
that's
the
what these are.
suffering and the crazy.
And it helps us deal with our inadequacies when we watch that and you can go, that was shit, wasn't it? You
Yeah,
know,
I could act better than
I
that
could do a better
bastard.
film than that. Exactly.
that might be
helps
it.
us, it helps us, deal with our inadequacies, doesn't it?
For me, anyway, it's like the happiest of accidents. It's one of those things where
Like
everything... Well, I mean, that's accurate. It's one of those things that comes together so haphazardly and yet works and fails on every single element. So before we go any further, I want to give you a quick rundown of how things work around here. Usually we spend about 5-10 minutes shooting the shit before we go into preamble, where we kind of talk about what our knowledge of the film is before we watch it, if we've seen it before, if we haven't seen it before, what we're expecting. We do a quick watch of the trailer, do our trailer talk. What do we think? What are we kind of putting ourselves through? What are we getting ourselves ready for? We'll watch the film, we'll shut it off, we'll ask you to shut it off with us, see if you can grab a copy, watch it with us. We'll come back, give our first impressions, really dive deep into kind of what the film's all about. Before we end on final thoughts, where we just tell you kind of a culmination of what we felt about the film, whether or not we would classify it as best worst, whether or not we enjoyed it. If you want to watch the film, I would highly recommend watching the films kind of before you hear, because they will be spoilery. our kind of reviews of them afterwards. So you can catch most of these on YouTube if it helps.
Most of them are 1,000 years old.
Yeah, so don't think you have to buy them on Blu-ray or anything like I do. But yeah, and that's usually where we leave you. So this film was released in 1990. It is a sequel to Troll 1.
No, it fucking isn't.
Well, it's right. It is a spiritual. It got the Troll 2 title slapped on in post-production. It was actually originally called Goblin, wasn't it? I think was the working title it was going
All
for.
of the enemies are goblins.
Which, yeah. So when we get into the kind of the plot of the film, you'll kind of realize that there was a lot of kind of confusion regarding the actual kind of language barrier that came with the director. I think he didn't really.
Sorry, wasn't it just called Troll 2 just because there was a semi-successful film called Troll?
Semi-successful.
It would probably help people actually. Oh, Troll 2! Didn't know they made a sequel to that.
Semi-successful is a really nice way of putting it. Me and Ryan watched Troll 1. It's a highly forgettable kind of bland 80s fantasy film. Like it kind of has vibes of Neverending Story. It has the kid from the Neverending Story in it. I think you preferred it.
I think I only preferred it because there was Troll 2, and it's whether it wants to be or not, it's now attached to Troll 2.
It actually comes in a multi-box set, doesn't it?
It does. We got the kind of 3-disc set with the documentary with the Troll 1 and Troll 2. I think the kind of resurgence of Troll 2 has brought Troll 1
It's ended up sort of
reversing
itself.
That was the kind of the B film now. The one that people don't really talk about is the first one. It is an immensely better film. It's actually competent. It's got decent acting. It's got decent effects.
Just forgettable.
It's just.
Does it have a troll?
It actually does have a troll.
Does it have
It has multiple trolls.
Yeah, multiple trolls. So the first one are trolls. Kid moves into an apartment block. There's a troll living there. The troll goes round infecting people and turning them into like cocoons from where more trolls come from. And then the apartments turn into a fairyland where there's trees and no clear borders and things like that. Eventually, the kid has to slay the troll. I was going to say fucking goblin. The kid slays the troll and life goes back to normal. This is fucking nothing like that.
Yeah.
First of all, there are like elements of it that carry over. Like there are
there's a child.
They're vegetarians in both films.
Do they drive through NILBOG at some point?
There's no NILBOG, which is clearly the best part of the film. I think it's currently on 6% on Rotten Tomatoes. Jack, what did you say it was on IMDb?
2.9.
2.9 on IMDb. It used to be the worst film on IMDb. It used to be number 1, but it has
used
dropped.
to be 0% on Rotten Tomatoes for a while.
Highly undeserved. It's much better than that.
I don't know about you, but this has got me really excited to watch the trailer.
I'm ready to watch the trailer as well. Should we do trailer talk? So I think what we'll do now, guys, is we'll shut the recording off. We'll go watch the trailer, come back and give you some of our thoughts. I would recommend you guys do the same. So if you have a chance, go watch the trailer and come back in about 2 or 3 minutes.
See y'all soon.
Bye.
Powers of evil are very strong here. I must leave.
Goblins don't exist. Goblins don't exist.
Or was it just me, or was that the single most scattershot advert I have ever seen in my entire fucking
I don't need
life?
to watch it now. I feel like it's caught me back up.
It was almost like a compilation of all the best scenes in the film, just stuck together with some really shitty soundtrack.
Well, nearly all the best scenes. You got like half of some of them. It was a teaser.
It was prepared. I think it does a good job of preparing you for kind of what you're about to experience. It's like that hella low budget. I love how it's like now on Blu-ray and it still looks like absolute fucking garbage.
I forget they just look like really little pissed off Ewoks, don't they?
Oh,
with their little sticks and everything like that.
Yeah, the trailer doesn't actually give a hell of a lot of the plot away. It's more of like, here's a scene from the film, here's another scene from the film, here's a kid screaming, here's a goblin chasing a kid. Like, it's very much one of those trailers where it doesn't actually spoil anything, really.
No spoilers. And it intersperses every few scenes the words Troll 2 on the black screen, but it keeps fading in different directions. Might come from the bottom of the screen, might appear out of the black. You just don't fucking know.
It's like year 8 Microsoft PowerPoint slide transition sort of. Is it like whirlwinds around the screen?
I think because of its like complete scattershot nature, it felt really long watching that. I think you mentioned it was almost as long as the...
It felt painfully long. I looked down, it's 2 minutes 20, but it felt like...
Yeah, Jack was almost asleep in the fucking trailer. We have this like thing. We're gonna get onto this because it's gonna come up at some point that Jack has a tendency to fall asleep during movies. And we're like,
quite a good one.
Throughout our friendship, you've fallen asleep through I would say at least 70% of the movies we've watched together.
And it doesn't even matter 65. On the movies.
It doesn't matter on the movie. I'd say at this point it's more of an expectation than it is a possibility.
I'm still a little bit upset that you fell asleep during Halloween when we went to see the re-release in a full like IMAX theater.
Oh, we got the comfy seats.
We did get the comfy seats, and you were like, probably. I think we got all the snacks as well.
was really warm. I was full. I was warm. I was comfy, and I just
perfect storm of.
It was a slow film Halloween. I'm sorry.
We're gonna have this. We're gonna have this argument one day.
The music was good,
happen.
but the rest of it wasn't, in my opinion. Sorry.
So yeah, trailer out the way. We kind of got a good idea of what we're gonna get in store for. I do want to kind of mention. We didn't mention the first part, but Troll 1, Ryan. Do you remember the most memorable part of that film? Because I remember the most memorable.
Is the most memorable part of that film Harry Potter?
The main character in Troll 1 is called Harry Potter.
Oh,
and
so when did this come out?
Radcliffe.
No. The main character's name is Harry Potter. Now, Troll 1 came out in like 87, 88 or something like that. So prior to J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter. I want to see the kind of prequel series that tells me that this is kind of set in the same universe as Harry Potter. It's like an MCU level extended
How many
universe.
kids do you think were actually called Harry Potter? They get
I don't fucking know.
Though,
Probably.
called Harry Potter.
I mean, they deserve it.
They
absolutely
absolutely deserve
Fucking
it.
nerds.
Someone needs to contact Joanne if you know her and ask if it's related to Troll.
Joanne being J.K. Rowling, Ryan has a tendency to call her Joanne because she's a turf.
Because they're on good terms.
Such good
She
terms.
just seems like a Karen, so I call her a Joanne.
Joanne's a pretty Karen-y name, like, isn't it? Oh, Joanne.
Joanne wants to speak to the manager too.
I'm sorry if any Joanne's listening.
Oh, you have an Andy called Joanne.
And she's a Joanne.
She is a bit of a Joanne. I think it just culminates like it's going to be this perfect storm of garbage. You're right. The trailer just tells you everything you kind of need to know going in.
I'm excited.
I'm ready,
to switch off now. Watch this movie, lower the lights, get Jack to sleep, and eat a fuck ton of food.
Right. So if you kind of are watching it with us, go turn the podcast off now. Come back in an hour and a half when you've seen it. Go find it on YouTube. Go find it somewhere. Don't download it illegally, but do if you have to. And you'll come back and find us soon. Right.
See
Bye,
y'all
guys.
soon.
And remember,
Dr. Carr, Dad, I'm sick!
they're eating her! Then they're going to eat me!
And we're back. We have just come back from watching Troll 2.
I'm no longer here. I'm now a goblin.
Ryan has transformed. Ryan ate some vegetables. Actually, knowing... Yeah, Jack's woken up, if you couldn't tell
Hi,
from that
Jack.
fucking
Welcome
yawn.
back to the world.
That was the snooze.
Jack
So we
had a
had
great
little bets on about what time Jack would fall asleep, and I don't think I won this one. I will get the next one, but Hannah, did you win this one?
Yeah, I said a solid 60 minutes and it was about 50 odd
He
minutes
trooped
in.
on there for a while.
I tried really hard. I really tried.
We had no faith in him. Liam was 20 minutes. I was
yeah.
45. We did not think he was going to last.
I'm going to up my bet for next time. I feel like I need to give him a bit more credit than I did this time.
We just
but-
tried really hard for the first episode.
But the next one's Showgirls, right?
yeah,
So
he's
that's
going
a
to
bit-
love Showgirls.
Yeah.
You can't sleep through Showgirls.
It's impossible to sleep through Showgirls.
Never seen it.
I'm excited for you to watch it.
It just sounds like smut, basically.
Smut.
High quality,
You
well-produced
youngsters
smut.
and your smut these
You do
days.
sound like the old man who sits on the fucking
Like Grandpa
garden
Seth
opposite
from this
the
movie.
Yeah.
What did we all think then? What was our kind of initial reaction? I mean, I fell back in love with it pretty much instantly. I would never go on record to say it's my favorite best worst film, but I would say it's up there. It's probably my top
It's a
10.
hoot.
It's the
delightful.
nostalgia value as well. This is my gateway into best worst movies, and it's just exactly what I wanted. I remember it exactly.
It did
as
take me
was.
back to being on the floor in that flat, watching them all together, just watching the atrocities that were on our screen.
Come to think of it, I think I fell asleep watching it the first time. as
You
well.
probably did. I
So
wouldn't be
that's
surprised.
not really a glowing review, is it?
Jack's. I mean, you fell asleep during Halloween. John
He
Carpenter's
falls asleep during
Halloween.
everything,
Not everything.
including his favourite episodes
No.
of things.
He could sit. He will sit and watch 9 hours of Lord of the Rings, wide like fucking Clockwork Orange, eyes wide, no problem.
Yeah, I was about to say, I don't fall asleep for everything. Oh, it's been a long week, right?
Let's cut him some
I'm
slack.
crossing
He's
myself for that
trying.
one, right?
Are you regretting waking up? You should just stay asleep now.
He's going back to
that
bed.
too.
He doesn't get bullied when he's asleep.
Fortunately for you, Liam has a little synopsis to catch up on what you've missed.
Yeah, this is for all our people who didn't watch this film, which you should have, but if you didn't, please go back and do it. But for those of you who don't care about spoilers, for those of you who want to join us and not watch the film, that's fine too. Let's give you a little bit of a plot synopsis. First things first, no relation to Troll 1, no trolls in it whatsoever. Joshua Waits and his family do a little house swap with a family in the quaint town of NILBOG. We'll get to that later, don't worry. All the while, he's been haunted by the ghost of Grandpa Seth, who's telling him to avoid NILBOG at all costs.
Excuse me, haunted by Grandpa Seth.
He's been tormented by Grandpa Seth, telling him to avoid NILBOG at all costs. Once there, the townsfolk's true nature reveals its ugly head. Devout vegetarian vampires, each one of them more vicious than
That was a sentence.
devout vegetarian vampires. That's going to be the tagline for this episode. They slowly force-feed our victims a combination of green goop and green milk, turning each one of them into plants for the goblins to devour, because goblins are vegetarians, obviously. Now, while all this is happening, Joshua's sister Holly is giving her boyfriend an ultimatum, basically saying that if you don't come with us to NILBOG, that it's over for us. He spends far too much time with his quote-unquote boyfriends.
If I had 5 boyfriends, I wouldn't hang out
I
with my
can't
girlfriend
blame the
either.
guy. Yeah, he's a lucky guy. What ends up happening is he doesn't end up going on the trip with them, but he does follow in their little camper van. They've got this like friend camper van thing going on. It's actually kind of cute. They all sleep in the same bed. Goblin Queen Credence is pulling all the strings in the background and tries to turn each of the family member into goblin food.
Except that's not her full title. She is
Sorry.
Goblin Queen, Druid Witch, Credence, Lenore, Guygood.
Lenore? Is she a fucking... Is she a fucking fabric? Yeah. What the fuck? But we're basically, with the help of the family, teamwork, and most importantly, Grandpa Seth's unexplainable superpowers, the family overcomes the goblin scourge and live happily ever after. Or do they? They don't.
They don't.
They all die.
Mommy dies, Daddy dies. Josh doesn't, presumably Josh dies, but you don't see Josh die. He just walks in on his mother getting cannibalized by vegetarian
And
goblins.
if that made no sense to you listening to it, I promise you it would make no sense watching it either. Because it's
But
not...
worth the ride.
It's entertaining from the beginning to the end. There's not really a scene in this that I think is boring. For me, it's just a really perfect example. I think it's probably the best introduction to Best Worst for a newbie or someone who's never seen a Best Worst film.
And while it makes no sense to viewers in general, especially if you're new to the genre, the director and writer both had their vision for this. It was meant to be a film about food, living, and family.
Yeah.
It's meant to be a horror film as well, wasn't it?
A horror comedy, yeah.
The writer she's always written horror, so she's written like horror comics since she was like 9 and shit. So that's what it was meant to be. I mean,
Yeah, the intent was she was pissed off at the vegetarian friends, so the antagonists of the movies, the goblins, are all vegetarian, naturally. She wanted to put out a hard-hitting piece. Yeah, this is meant to be really,
I'm a little
really
bit upset.
philosophical.
As the group vegetarian, I'm a little bit upset that you guys haven't written a film about vegetarian goblin vampires. For me,
she didn't write it for them. She wrote about them.
Yeah, I don't know. I would be really happy if you guys wrote a film about vegetarian vampires for me.
maybe we call it
Yeah, a little bit.
Goblin, and we base it on trolls.
Troll 2 is a fucking delight. I don't care what anyone says.
Neil, but with an I, so it's Liam spelled backwards.
Right, yeah, but we're going to get to NILBOG. I hope... Should we give our listeners like a few seconds to figure out what NILBOG is?
Dead air.
It's goblin spelled backwards. Dun dun dun.
Did anyone ever watch the TV show Raven on CBBC?
I love Raven.
Way of the Warrior. Challenger. You lose a life. That wasn't his arch nemesis, Navor, which is Raven spelled backwards.
Because it's the easiest way.
It's
yeah,
the most like lazy writing possible.
Who isn't inspired by this movie? You've got JK, you've got the BBC, fucking us. Who's next?
I don't know if the BBC was inspired by the concept of palindromes, Ryan, but okay.
But isn't a palindrome the same thing spelled backwards?
Yeah, my name's a palindrome.
Hannah is a palindrome, yeah.
NILBOG and Goblin isn't a palindrome.
Oh shit, okay.
Where did you get that English degree?
I don't know. I don't care what anyone says. Like in a way, there's nothing redeemable about it, but because of the love and the earnestness and there was genuine craftsmanship and care. Right, okay, you're laughing.
There was an attempt.
There was care.
craftsmanship.
There was definitely care that was put into this. The director and the screenwriter clearly loved the project they were working on.
That kind of care where you really care about training your dog to the point where you kick it.
But I don't feel like there's any
You
bad
called the
intent.
cast dogs and you shouted at them constantly, even when years later they all travel back to the house this was set in and they recreate the scene. Claudio, the director, is there shouting at the actors because this fake scene that they're doing is laughable. They are laughing at it, and he is furious.
He has a vision, and he knows how to get.
change.
He has a vision, and he knows how to get his vision fucking seen. That's what matters. It's the sign of a director who has something to say, regardless of whether it's good or not, regardless of whether it's worthy of being seen. Doesn't really matter because it's achieved. Like he set out to do what he wanted to do, and he did it.
On that note, if this podcast turns out to be terrible, Liam is the director.
Oh, fuck. Okay, yeah, I didn't think about that. These people set out to make their version of a good film. And I think that's what... And yeah, they failed miserably. They absolutely did. But that doesn't make it any less enjoyable. That doesn't make it any less...
We set out. No.
There's something you can't really replicate, I don't think. Again, why films like, for me, Sharknado, films that just don't work. Because
it's like if you fuck up a recipe and it turns out surprisingly well... You can't remake that sort of weird recipe. It's just chucking ingredients in and hope for the best.
But if you cook me a plate of dog shit, I'm going to know it's dog shit. You're right. Like, if I get dog shit when I ordered, like, lobster bisque, then, yeah, I'm going to be a bit pissed off. But I was never going into Troll 2 expecting fucking lobster bisque, was I? Or Casablanca is what they compare it to. There's the actress, Margot, was like, oh, yeah, it's in a similar vein to... It's an actor's movie in the similar vein to Casablanca. And it absolutely is.
I genuinely feel bad criticising her after watching the Best Worst movie.
Yeah.
Because I was going to tear her a new arse like in this because like, there's the dead-eyed sort of acting in every scene.
So you just roll on through there with the insults.
Dead eyes.
I've condensed a very long rant into a very short sentence, you know? But yeah, she seems genuinely troubled and genuinely kind of out of touch and almost like bordering on kind of delusional in her approach to how the film was received.
Oh, my heart bleeds. She still intends to go back to acting someday.
And how old is she now?
She'll be well into her 50s, 60s. Oh, maybe even older. Yeah, you're right. As far as the actors go, we have George Hardy as the dad, Michael Paul Stevenson as the son. I think they all kind of get a bad rap. Like they all weren't really given a fair. Well, I don't know whether they were given a fair shot either, because I think from watching the documentary, from watching this, a lot of the scenes were orchestrated by Claudio Fragasso, the director,
who actually released this film under the pseudonym Drake Floyd.
Which I don't know whether that was an attempt of being cool or just trying to... He was definitely proud of it. See, this is the thing, I would have said
like
that.
Johnny Blue Jeans going for like a really American...
That's what I was thinking, yeah. He's just trying to pander to the market.
Yeah. Max Power. No, I think, yeah, again, like if he was ashamed of it, I would have probably agreed with you that it was a pseudonym for that purpose. I don't know what his intent with that was. So I think one of the actresses in particular, Connie Young, the actress who plays the teenage daughter, she gets a really bad rap for her acting abilities, and again, rightly so. There's the scene at the very beginning of the movie that's quite iconic where her boyfriend kind of sneaks through the window as she's doing this workout scene. There's some pretty iconic dialogue in that. What was the nuts line?
Are you nuts? You trying to turn me into a homo?
Wouldn't it be too hard? If my father discovers you here, he'd cut off your little nuts and eat them. He can't stand you.
And that just sums up the caliber of the dialogue, really, doesn't it?
It's that throughout, pretty much.
I think, didn't the cast say at quite length that, like, the director was kind of steamrolling them of this is what American culture is, this is what American teenagers act like, despite being like a middle-aged Italian man. He was like, this is what American teenagers would act like.
The language barrier was real, I'll tell you that much.
So I know there was a lot of problems with the cast getting the scripts in the first place, and when they did get them, a lot of it was in broken English.
They did try to ad-lib, didn't they, a lot of the actors, but the director was just having absolutely none of it. He pulled it back a lot of the time and just said, no, you will do my script.
Actor dogs. It was his way or no way, basically.
And some of the actors would spend hours trying to decipher these scripts, come up with new lines that would fit the narrative a bit better, took them to Claudio, and he just shot them down every time.
I'm really happy he did, if I'm being honest. We would have not had beautiful, beautiful dialogue. Like, can I do my favourite piece of dialogue in this film? Because it hasn't been said yet. It needs to be said.
Absolutely.
Do you know what that means? Hospitality. And you can't piss on hospitality. So that was like, if you haven't seen it, George Hardy, the actor who plays the dad, I think it's probably the most iconic line in the film. After the kid literally pisses on the dinner table. So there's this scene kind of early on where the kid figures out that the goblins are trying to poison the family with the vegetables. They're sitting down for a nice vegan lunch, and this kid tries to figure out, what am I going to fucking do? I need to stop my family from eating this. That's when Grandpa Seth fucking jumps in with his time travel abilities, which we'll get into as well. And he just ends up pissing on the fucking table. That's his solution to how do I stop my family from eating goblin poison, basically.
Yeah, not grab the tablecloth and just eat it all out.
Yeah, there's plenty of other things he could have done, but no, I'm going to piss on their food.
That wasn't originally what they were going to do. They were originally going to get him to stand up on the table and shout that he was possessed. But then as he was doing that, the director stopped him and said, no, you must piss on the food. And at first, apparently, the kid who was doing it was like, you want me to do what? What now? But then he just had to go on with it because obviously actors are dogs and they will do as they are told.
You can't piss on hospitality, Hannah. He's like not just pissing on hospitality. He's not just pissing on the food. He's like pissing on their fucking hands, on the table, on the fucking...
Presumably in their mouths.
Presumably in their mouths. It's disturbing. It's a fucking awesome scene. I'll give you that much. It's one of the more iconic scenes in the film for good reason.
The best bit is how the mum just looks exacerbated. She's not angry. She's not pissed off. She's just like, Joshua.
Joshua pissed on the table again.
Was it a whole bit with the dad's belt? Was it the joke meant to be that he was... Like, he was about to beat him with his belt?
Yes. So George...
Classic child abuse is just, really funny.
It's bizarre. So after he tells me you can't piss in hospitality, George realises, like, Dad, what are you going to do? George grabs his belt and then tightens it. Because he's going to tighten his belt up a notch so he can...
Stop the hunger pains!
Can we please talk about Grandpa Seth for a bit?
Oh, I forgot about the mirror scene where he's just like, oops, sorry, wrong.
Where he gets in the wrong room. He goes to his fucking sister's room instead. So he can apparate, but he can't tell which room his grandson's in?
No, he can turn into a homeless man in the middle of a road, in the middle of nowhere, and know exactly where they're going to be. But he gets lost in a new farmhouse.
It's a big house. It's not a big house.
It's only 4 rooms.
Well, again, it's just it's a testament to how scattershot this film is. It's like there are rules, but they don't make any sense.
In terms of Grandpa Seth, this is how his powers work. So we start off when he's in Joshua's bedroom, telling him the story about goblins and warning him about them because somehow he knows about them already. Whatever. The mother comes in and then tells Joshua that Grandpa Seth's been dead. And just to really let us know that he is dead, she reminds Joshua that he attended the funeral because it's so easy to forget those funerals that you attend all of the time. Grandpa Seth travels along with them apparently, turns into this hitchhiker, which disappears before the family see and just think Joshua's gone crazy. Stops time for a limited amount of time, so he comes back to life in flesh and blood. Gets a Molotov cocktail, encourages Joshua to throw it in on the goblins, who at this point still look like humans.
He's clearly a level 5 mutant or some shit like that. But I want to know what I want to know desperately what he did to get sent to hell.
What didn't he do to get sent to hell? Give a child a Molotov cocktail. That's not good grandparenting.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, to defeat some trolls, I don't know. I'd probably want a Molotov cocktail from my grandpa.
To a fucking 10-year-old, that is so safe.
I think it's just, teaching him about responsibility and what life's like once he's going to grow up.
And to piss on tables.
That's the thing, right? So, piss on tables, Molotov cocktail. He apparates...
Hug the hitchhiker.
He apparates into his teenage granddaughter's room. That's kind of pervy. That's kind of weird, right?
Inspiring.
Talking about kind of our favourite scenes in this film. So, obviously, you kind of gravitate towards Grandpa Seth. Hannah, you wouldn't shut up about Credence, like the whole way through.
I love Credence. I just think she clearly had the best of times. She fully embodied just the bizarreness that was this movie. It was those facial expressions. When she first comes in and she's like, this is my house. And it's that sort of...
She's campy and hamming it up, isn't she? Yeah.
Moody sort of black-teethed grin. And she's... So actually, she dressed herself and she was really excited about this. And she wore all of her great-grandmother's jewellery and she went thrift shopping for it.
Good for her.
That look was all down to her.
And you can tell she's having the most fun with the role, I think, whereas a lot of the other actors are kind of stressed and trying to offer alternative lines and alternative dialogue. She's taking everything on the chin and just running with it.
I think everyone else thought it was a legitimate, this could be my big break as an actor, though, didn't it?
That's the thing.
I don't know what her background was, but it just seems like it's just kind of, fuck it, let's just go for it sort of mode, isn't it?
Yeah, the actress Deborah Reed, I don't know what much about her either, but she's having the most fun. She's the one who kind of understands the assignment, I think. She gets what the director's going for.
And what definitely works to her benefit is the amount of makeup that she has on. She's very hard to recognise in the real world.
She's kind of the catalyst for a lot of the best scenes in the film as well, I think. Like the infamous they're eating her scene is kind of comes from her. She's kind of the commander of the goblins. She makes the goblins descend on this random woman who just shows up. I don't know where she shows up from. And then that iconic, oh no, the reading her scene comes from that. The popcorn scene, which is later on where the film almost transforms into this 80s music video. So yeah, it's a scene that kind of right after the scene where she kind of gets her hand chopped off with Grandpa Seth in the mirror. She kind of goes back to this druidic rock that kind of all the goblins stem from.
She's got a piece of genuine
She does.
Stonehenge
It's
now.
very much like, this kind of ancient druidic shit that doesn't really get explained either. That the rock also seems to transform it into this seductive. It takes away all of her grime and it fixes her fucking teeth for her. She then goes to seduce these teenagers that are kind of following the boyfriend around.
And then it gets very sort of The Ring.
Yeah.
evaporates in his TV, then outside.
Slightly erotic version of The Ring with popcorn. No, just corn. Normal corn. Popcorn. Both corn. Both corn, popcorn. All of the corns.
It gets so hot and steamy while they're in that little camper van that turns into popcorn.
I want to talk about that camper van, and I want to talk about those teenage boys as well, because there's definitely something going on between those teenage boys.
Oh, well, Connie, the girlfriend,
Yeah.
references him as a homo several times through the movie.
She does, and there are scenes where they're all in bed together. I'm just saying.
Do they live in that camper van?
I don't know
Is
what
that
they
their
do.
house?
I'm not sure.
They borrowed it. They borrowed it at the
Did
start of the film.
Saying that, Connie mentions at the beginning of the film that he sleeps with his friends, and then they're in the camper van later sleeping in the same bed. So I'm wondering if they all just live together.
Again, I'm wondering if this
so
was just
happy.
such a weird language barrier thing where the guy didn't understand that that was meant to be a joke and then took it literally. I don't fucking know. I don't know what the screenwriter was thinking. Things just apparate from nothing. Like, these scenes come from nothing. Like a lot of these best worst films, it does feel like this was created by a council of aliens who've second-handedly seen a lot of our films and then tried to make their own film, or like one of those like random film generator things. It doesn't feel like this was made by human beings. Yeah, Jack, do you want to tell us what your favourite scene was in the film? Do you have a favourite scene?
The first 60 minutes of the film.
I think I agree with Hannah. I think the scene with Credence with the birthday cake thing, I think was probably my favourite. It's just, she really does get the creepy atmosphere like just right. Again, she feels like she knows that this film's a train wreck and she's just in it for the fun of it, rather than trying to like actually do a serious take on it and try to get some actual, acting accolades. She feels it's just gun-ho.
Yeah, she's
All
a
of her
drag
scenes.
queen among wannabe Shakespearean actors.
All of her scenes are exceptional. There's not really a dull moment when she's on the screen. At all. Go on.
So before we leave this, I do have one more favourite scene, and that is when Elliot Cooper, in his plant pot form glory, his friend comes in.
Oh shit, yeah, I forgot about this. This is brilliant.
And in his way to save him is just to drag his friend, half planned, all gross and bleeding, just out with a plant pot, and he's clearly struggling. He cannot carry him, and Credence just walks in behind them with her beautiful, beautiful self.
I want to know what the rules are about this, because like some of the times the food turns you into green mush, sometimes the food turns you into a tree.
While we're on the kid in the plant pot, didn't that poor kid have to sit in that for like 14 hours?
It was something like that. They like glued his shoes or something, didn't they?
His feet were bolted, actually bolted to the plant pot.
His feet are his shoes, because that's the actual torture.
Sorry, his shoes, but they were his shoes.
Yeah. Most of the cast had their own clothes and wardrobe because they had no budget and they had no way of they couldn't be arsed. Like, there were scenes where people's t-shirts changed mid-scene. There was like
were they paid in like green milk?
They fucked up. They did this thing where they like accidentally fucked up one of the t-shirts and then they're like, oh, just buy another fucking t-shirt and bring it in tomorrow, mate. And I'm like, that's not how wardrobe works. You're meant to have this shit sorted out for me.
But even the goblins, the costumes, the hands were far too big and had to be taped to this burlap sack they were wearing. The masks were far too big on some of them, and some of them weren't even tucked into the shirts.
It's exceptional from beginning to end. I don't care what anyone says. None of you can convince me that this isn't one of the best films ever made. I feel like you'd honestly have to be heartless not to love this movie. It's one of those things where you can't get away with watching it and not be smiling the entire time from beginning to end.
Sleeping.
Or sleeping if you're Jack, but that's just, narcolepsy.
So did this film actually make any money?
It did kind of. I think by this point, absolutely. Like when you factor in like VHS sales,
The ruined itself, hasn't it?
it ruined itself.
Blu-ray.
It has kind of come back into the public consciousness and into the zeitgeist. But yeah, unreleased now. It didn't release in cinemas. It released pretty much straight to VHS. It would have. I mean, you consider that the budget was probably shoestringed. It might have made its budget back. It probably didn't lose much money because of how little they actually put into making it.
It only took him 3 weeks, didn't it, to film
Yeah.
like the entire film?
Well, he had a vision and he got his vision done. Like, I don't think anyone would want to argue with this guy. I think you're right. If this guy fucking asks you to bolt your feet to the floor, you're gonna fucking do it. He's intimidating.
You've got actual feet.
It's a testament to just how enjoyable bad movies can be, I think, and I think it's a fantastic gateway drug into the world of best worst.
I'm going to leave this movie saying that it's not my favourite best worst, but it is within my top 5, I'm going to say. I think it's an excellent film. All of the problems can be laid at the director's feet, but also the love is there. The genuine feelings that he has for this movie and still holds for this movie are there. The actors all are probably very embarrassed about it, but they did it. They still show up to the Best Worst Awards to accept the rewards, and this will always hold a special place in my little heart.
I'd agree. Like, this film is definitely, it's an eye-opener into what the best worst can do, and that's just fill you with fun and entertainment. And it's probably not my top best worst, but it's definitely in the top 5, and I think it'll always be there, just as it was how you guys introduced us. This and The Room is how you guys introduced us to the best of the worst.
Because it's
Exactly what
watchable.
it is,
This
it's
is
the best
because
of
it's
the worst.
watchable. It's not one of the, we have best worst on here that are hard to watch. What makes it so enjoyable? Like what makes it such a good first best worst is because it's not one of those films that you don't have to struggle through it. It's not one that's going to hurt you.
It does have a semblance of a plot. However many plot holes you can point at it, at least unlike Cats.
Yeah.
See, this is a lukewarm one for me. Personally, I think there's definitely better best worst for entertainment value, at least. Like, we've definitely seen some ones that really lean into it too. Like, what was the circus one we saw? Was it
The circus one?
did it have vampires as a question mark on the end, or zombies? Or
Oh, but that's the one with the ridiculous title. That's
What
like,
was it? It was like the
incredibly
longest
mixed up vampires that got lost and turned into crazy zombies or something. It has like
See,
one of the
that was
longest
one where
titles.
It's got the weird factor just right for me, and it was just silly enough to be good. This one was a little bit tepid for me, but again, it kind of opened the doorway, the gateway drug of bad movies, where it got me warmed up for, it set the expectations, it set the bar, I think. Everything else was it was used as a measuring stick, I think, for me to compare other films against.
Yeah, absolutely. There are 3 like sort of sequels to this film as well. If anyone wants to invest more time into the universe of Troll, I know one came out in like the year after in like 1990. One was like a couple of years after that, and there was one really recent one called Under Control. I think brings back.
Oh my God.
I know, right? What a fucking title! I think brings back George Hardy as like a cameo in the dentist, the dad dentist.
Hang on, Under Control.
Troll. Did you just get that?
Yes, I did.
That's ridiculous.
Troll 3 also did not feature any trolls, apparently.
I wouldn't expect it to. I think if you're going to keep the
It
tradition,
was, again, not even, it wasn't relevant to Troll 1 or Troll 2, but it also didn't have trolls in it, so it's just the most disjointed,
I think if
fucked up trilogy.
I think if by film 3 you then want to add a bit of like semblance of narrative and plot, I think you fucking missed the point entirely. So yeah, I don't think Fragasso, the director, actually knew what creatures were in the film, because they comment on it and they say, look, why did you make a film without any trolls in and call it Troll? And he was like, you know nothing, you don't understand, you're an idiot, you're an idiot. And I'm like, that's his answer to most things when anyone comes at him for not making a cohesive film. It's so enjoyable. The MySpace generation's Rocky Horror. I honestly love this film so much, and I can't wait to watch it Under Control and force you guys to watch that at some point in the future. Well, thank you guys for listening to the first episode of the Bad Taste Buds. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, you can give our Instagram page, our Twitter page, and our Facebook page a like. Just search Bad Taste Buds. We also have a website at www.badtastebuds.com. Don't forget to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Next week, we are doing one of Ryan's favorite films. Do you want to give us a little introduction as to what we're doing next week, Ryan?
Oh, gladly. We are taking a trip down to the Cheetah in sunny Las Vegas to watch the magical, the sexy, the titillating
It's not sexy.
Showgirls.
It's not titillating.
Michelle Visage's favourite movie.
Yeah, and you
so
Drag
I'm in
Race
good
fans.
company.
It's brilliant. I'm really excited to show you guys because you two have never seen this. This is brand new for you.
I'm excited.
I think it's going to be a good one. Do keep checking us out and leave us some love. Thank you very much, and see you later, guys.